Well, I'm not so sure that this agreement in Minsk means that much. It's been my understanding for some time now that the ambition of the separatists has mainly been to straighten out the front lines, to create a defensible perimeter for their pseudo-states, the people's republics. That means that they want to sort out the pocket around the rail junction at Debaltseve, where fierce fighting has been going on. And they now have 3 days until the ceasefire comes into effect to do that. So we're going to see very bloody, intensive fighting around Debaltseve now, and the Russians are likely to win that. Once they've done that and stabilized the front line in the south with Mariupol, I think they're content with the ceasefire. And that would probably have happened even without Minsk. So it will be stable for a few months and then it's going to flare up again. Well, for European political leaders, it means that they can pretend that they have made a big step towards peace, although everybody knows that this is a very small step that probably won't lead anywhere. For Ukraine, it means that the killing may stop temporarily, which is obviously a very major benefit, but it also means that all the hard work is still to be done. They need to come to an agreement with Russia on confederation of Ukraine, maybe. If they do that, they will have an explosion of protest in the western and central parts of the country. They will need to force the Russians to agree that the Ukrainian state takes over control of the border between the People's Republics and Russia, which will not happen. So all the hard work is still to be done for Ukraine. For Russia, this means that Russia has yet again gotten away with claiming that it is not involved, that it is an internal conflict in Ukraine between the separatists and the central government in Kiev. And they made a stunt during the night involving the leaders of the People's Republic, saying that we have an agreement, but they were not involved, so they couldn't sign, and then you went back. So they've really emphasized yet again that the Ukrainian government will need to negotiate with these hoods that nobody recognizes beyond Mr. Putin. So it's a step forward for Russia, I would argue. Yes, this was the big news to come out of Minsk, and it's obvious that it had a big connection. I mean, for the past few weeks, nobody has been willing to talk even about the fact that Ukraine was on the road towards sovereign default. Its hard currency reserves are now below $7 billion, which is literally nothing. And the pressure has been intense on the IMF to come up with this huge additional credit. Now it has done so, and that means that the fear of an immediate sovereign default has been postponed. But the fact remains that someone will have to inform the Ukrainians that there is a big difference that is not semantic, between credit and gift. These are credits that will have to be repaid. And as long as we don't see any sensible reforms that makes turns Ukraine into a viable entity with a working economy, then these monies are just going to be spent, not on objects that make it possible for Ukraine to repay them. So my guess is that the mountain of debt that will go into default has now been increased. So the default will be postponed, but when it happens, it will be larger.